Well, there is concern around the world about a nuclear-armed Iran, but how is Iran arming itself now? Isn't that a question we should be asking? My next guest says China is playing a major role, helping Iran to develop an arsenal of missiles capable of hitting the United States. Joining me now, Gordon Chang, foreign affairs correspondent at The Daily. So, Gordon, how does China figure in here?
Well, it looks like China has been selling Iran its DF-31 missile, which has a range of 4,300 miles, which is just about enough to reach Alaska. Now, these reports are consistent with things that we know to be true, that Chinese enterprises have been sourcing materials and components for Iran's nuclear and missile programs, and also that China, despite repeated American pleas, allowed North Korea to use the Beijing airport to transfer missiles to Iran. By now, the evidence against China is overwhelming.
So let's talk about what's in it for China. You know, we talk about what could happen if there's a nuclear arms race in the Middle East, but also just an unstable Middle East. China, as well as the United States, depends upon the Middle East, Iran, Saudi Arabia, for oil. So why would China want to arm Iran? Why would they want to add more instability to the region?
Well, they shouldn't, but there are a couple of things that they're looking at. One of them is that if China is able to get Iran on its side, it therefore sort of undermines Russia's presence. And of course, there's a lot of rivalry between Moscow and Beijing. And also, because if they can get the atomic ayatollahs on their side, they also get a lot of oil and gas. And, you know, the more relationships they have with governments in the Middle East, the more those governments are not going to help the Uyghurs in China's Xinjiang province who want to be free of Beijing. So there are a lot of incentive for Beijing to send not only missile technology, but also nuclear weapons technology to Iran.
There's a lot of different dynamics at play, as you mentioned, Gordon. One of the things that we've been talking a lot about are these sanctions, and we know that China is not completely on board when it comes to sanctioning Iran. You mentioned that the United States has brought this up with China. There's sales with Iran, but there's really no consequence to China continuing business. So what should we do as a nation? How do we engage China on this issue?
Well, because we want to engage China to bring it into the international system, we haven't been criticizing China, especially in public. You know, we have sort of seen China as the partner to help us stop Iran, but China is not the partner. It's not part of the solution. Unfortunately, it looks like it is, in fact, the problem. So in order to really deal with Iran, we also have to deal with its sponsor, which is China now.
And so does that mean sanction China?
Well, you know, that very well may come to it, because the sanctions that were put in place at the end of the last year in the Defense Appropriations Bill, they kick in on July 1st. These are the sanctions on the Iranian financial central bank. And, you know, we may have to give waivers to China because China deals with the Iranian financial institutions. This is going to be a very big political issue come the beginning of July.
It'll be an issue of political courage, that's for sure, to really enforce that, to not give the waivers if that's indeed the course that we want to go on. Gordon, we hope to have you back to talk more about that. Thank you, as always, for joining us.
Thank you.